Thanks, guys. All right, so we are on day 3, which means we're going to be doing the third key to having better relationships, more confidence, more happiness, and more peace, all while fortifying your mindset so you can feel less stressed. How do you guys feel about days 1 and 2 so far?
Very informative, really good.
Great. I'm glad you feel like you've been getting some good information. Thank you for the clap, Jesus. I appreciate the feedback. All right. So we'll do a quick review. So key 1 or day 1 was strengthening our character. And then last night we did key 2, which was becoming curious. Anything that you want to review for that or from that before we get into key 3? All right. So basically, curiosity is going to help you get places, get further ahead, because it's going to be shifting your focus and perspectives. And so we did step 1 last night of a breakthrough healing technique for our mindset and our heart set to evict fear. You guys wrote down 2 goals. And I don't know if you had a chance to do your second one on your own, but we started out, or we ended up last night rather, making a specific action step. So I am whatever the action is by the date you'll begin. Did you guys have a chance to finish off what you had started last night on your own or not? I'm just curious.
Yes, I did.
Yes, cool.
I did too.
You did too. Cool. So tonight, which is key 3, it's going to be doing an audit. You are going to have a chance to build further on what you started last night, or if you're feeling like that's not really where your priority is best being set at, you can shift it to something else. But what we'll do this evening is we together will do an audit. So you're going to learn exactly where you are in your specific situation, and that will let you know where to focus and allowing you to have control and take back your power so that you don't feel helpless. And when we feel helpless, that's like a entryway for fear coming in. When we feel unfocused or confused, we get stressed and worried about how is this ever going to get done, or think we can't do it, or we quit. So we're going to do an audit, which is going to help us get moving in the direction we want to go in. So before we do that, what you're going to do is we're going to take 2 minutes to just jot on a piece of paper or in your journal. You probably in 2 minutes won't get up to 50 things, but you're going to do as many things as possible. You're going to write out the things you are grateful for. Oh, I see Trinity's joining us. Yay. Hi, Trinity. So good to see you. Welcome back. We are just starting in on key 3. We're going to be doing an audit. But before we do that, we're doing an opening breakthrough activity in which we're going to do Thanksgiving, and you're going to write down in the next 2 minutes. Let's see. You're going to write down as many things as you are personally grateful for. I'm going to set my timer now. And I'll bring up a little music. fast. That was 2 minutes and it went super fast. I can't believe how quickly that went. They do say time flies when you're having fun. I was having fun. Okay. So how do you all feel?
Feeling good. That definitely went by fast.
Yeah, it really did. Glad you're feeling good. So this is another strategy you can use if you're feeling stressed out, if you're even beyond stressed out and now freaking out at that point. It's kind of hard for the emotion of fear or stress to exist when you're thinking about good things. Your mind might still try to wander back, of course, to the problem or the situation, but you can always like reroute it back to like, no, I'm going to write down things I'm grateful for. For this, I just, for whatever reason, decided 50 plus. You could do this on your own afterwards. But also we are advised by God in everything, give thanks. So I think, God being a creator is an ultimate scientist. So of course he knows how our bodies respond and like the chemicals that we would get when we start having good memories, right? We're going to start producing like happier chemicals that are going to be healthier for our bodies, just by thinking back to good memories that, and sometimes even also it's encouraging to us because we're like, oh, you know what? I'm grateful for this thing, which reminds me that, I've been in a bad place before, but I didn't have to stay there. So it's like a great way to kind of even encourage ourselves. Did anyone have any thoughts or anything they wanted to add before I move on?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So we are going to get right into it. You ready? Yay. Trinity's nodding. Okay. So we have two things that are really good for reminders, and ties right in with gratitude and thankfulness. The first one, Proverbs 23:7. Would anyone like to read that one, please?
I will. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was perfect.
You're welcome.
Yes. So does this make anyone think of anything, or anyone have any thoughts about the thinking in the heart?
Yeah, I think it also goes like with what Tony Robbins says, like where your focus goes, your energy flows, like that whole mindset and energy and action
Yes,
through line.
absolutely. Where we are focusing, our energy is going to go into that thing, and it's going to either help us or take us in a direction that we do not care to go further in. So yes, absolutely good reminder to connect with Tony. Anyone else have any thoughts?
We kind of, excuse me. This is one of my favorite verses, and I kind of went through the chapter on that, and it kind of talks about it, kind of a wealthy man. And so it kind of gets into a thing of deception, how people can deceive us in certain ways, and the the where their heart is, that's where their heart is, and that's where they think. A lot of times we use it as a positive thinking. I use it as positive too. But when I actually read that whole chapter, I'm like, wow, look at this. It works the opposite way of someone working against you too.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Because you are absolutely right when you're talking about deceitful. Some people are deceitful, right? And where our treasures are laid up, that kind of is where our heart is. And some people do not have the same intentions about life that we do. And sometimes even we ourselves, especially if we've gone through some sort of heartbreak or trauma, or someone's hurt our feelings, our heart can start thinking in ways that we may not realize. So I do like to do this for myself. And like when I coach people, it's something that I also remind them of, about like asking God to reveal to us like anything in our heart that should not be there. Because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. And they'll be like, well, you know what, God, is there anything in there? And he'll be like, you know, that was a little manipulative, Beth. That was kind of, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was. So yes, we want to do that, right? Have God bring it up, because it says he knows our hearts better than we do. Because sometimes we're just embarrassed about like the things that we're feeling or thinking, and so we try to ignore them, and then we kind of forget about it or whatever. But we want to be aware of what's going on in our heart, the good things as well, as the things that aren't serving us. And that way we can start flowing our energy, like to go back to what you shared, Trinity, in the direction that's beneficial for us and everyone else around us as well. So yeah, thank you for those insights. Any other thoughts? Okay, so now we're into Job 3, verses 25 to 26. Anyone, would anyone like to read this one, please? No one wants to read the Job one. I'll read it. It's all good. So, for the thing which I greatly feared is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. Who here knows about Job? Anyone?
He suffered tremendously, but the interesting thing to me was that Satan had to ask permission from God to for these things to happen to Job, and he came back a couple of times, but God ends up telling him, you can take everything, but you can't. Basically, you can't have his soul. So all souls belong to Christ,
Yes.
and he went through tremendously.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. God is so interesting. I'm just like, you are one interesting being, God. Because anything that does happen to us, God does give permission for it to or not happen. In this case, it was well, sometimes it's our choice. Sometimes God will like try to stop us. I'll be honest. I had a situation at one point where I ended up dating the wrong man, and God gave me so many warnings, like countless warnings. Okay. And finally he was just like, well, I guess you're going to want to learn the hard way. Okay. So, but he did try to stop me. But anyway, there is like that permission that does still have to be given. So all of that to say is, Job, does anyone know, or can anyone pick out from this like what actually caused the bad things to really, like, the doorway? So like what was the thing that gave Satan permission? Because there has to be something for God to give Satan permission. There had to have been something that he would have been like, yeah. Any ideas what that was?
For me, was it the fear? Was it his
Yeah.
fear?
Yeah.
Okay, it was like I figured that he was overthinking his fear too much, and that no matter what he tried, it finally came upon them.
Yes, that was the problem because there's a woman that I follow. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of her. Her name's Tiffany Montgomery, and she likes to say that when we have faith or when we're calm, we worship God, but when we are worried or fear, we're actually worshiping Satan. So worry and worship go with Satan. That's not going to go over very well because now we've just made someone else our God. I had another, yeah. So I was gonna go off a little bit on a tangent, but let me get back on focus. So never mind, I'm gonna scratch that one part. But what happened is he was afraid of bad things happening to his family. So he made extra sacrifices. He did all of like the legalistic things, all of the rituals and routines necessary to what he thought would protect his family, but he was still afraid. And so he kept kind of doing it. So it was like out of fear, he was sacrificing, not so much out of worship to God. And so Satan showed up in heaven and God was like, where'd you come from? And Satan's like, well, I came from, walking around and checking things out. And God's like, oh, yeah, did you see my servant Job? Isn't he just like amazing? Because Job really was amazing and Job did really, truly love God. And they did have that relationship. But Satan said, the thing is, the reason why he loves you so much, God, is just because you've always protected him, And if you didn't always protect him and he had some bad things happen, he's not going to love you anymore. And God was like, you want to bet? And so, like Stephanie shared, Satan took him up on the bet and God gave him permission to pretty much do everything except take his life. And then eventually Job actually came around and he repented. And that's like how he broke out of that whole thing. He repented and he prayed for his friends who were like being really rude to him. But he lost everything. And then God did in the end because Job fully ended up repenting and putting his faith back and his reverence back to God. God fully restored everything and he ended up having, twice as much as he had before for his trouble. So all that to say is when you or I start, it's like we were saying in week 1, we're human and we're going to have moments where we're afraid and that is okay. And that's normal. It's when we start operating in a spirit of fear that we're opening ourselves up to potential problems, where we're giving Satan access that we don't want him to have. So it's important we stay focused.
There's Beth, when you're talking about, we were discussing the part where God allows things to happen. Sometimes, I don't know if anybody else has the same issue as I do. Sometimes you kind of try to decipher, am I going through this because of God has me in this, or am I going through this because of, for other reasoning? I don't know. That's just something I want to throw out there.
Oh yeah, I think we've all asked ourselves that. What's the deal? And I think that Job probably at the time he was going through things didn't realize it was fear that had opened the door. So sometimes we really don't know, and sometimes we'll never know really why certain things happen. Although we all have free choice, and that also gives other people free choice. And then when you have sin, it can become like all sorts of, interesting mixtures of why things happen. But one thing that we can control, and and focus on, instead of like all the unknown factors, is going back to like, okay, so what do I know and what can I like where can I take control of my life? And one way to do it is to, you know, focus on God, because he's love, and where there is love, there is no fear. That's our safety place, right? And fear is worshiping Satan, worries worshiping Satan. We don't want to do that. So like the one thing that we can get rid of is like operating and allowing the spirit of fear to, you know, manipulate us. It doesn't mean like you don't have a moment where you're like on your couch crying or something, you know. I'm not saying like to be like a robot, right? Just to clarify, but we just don't want to stay there. So, were there any other thoughts? Okay. So, what we will do then is we will go through the process instead of around it. A lot of times we try to avoid things. I know I've been prone to do that from time to time. So we want to go through the process. So this is how we're going to do it. Oh, Edith is joining us. Let me just pause for a moment till she joins. Hi, Edith. Welcome. How are you?
Late.
It's all good. You came just in time. We were about ready to start our breakthrough activity. So we did a little bit of gratitude, Thanksgiving. We talked a little bit about like our heart and fear. And now we're talking about evicting fear, not staying in a place of fear. Like, it's okay. We all are human. You know, we have a moment where we're sitting on our couch crying or like laying on the floor crying. It's fine. We just have to go through it. We have like, we can't stay there. And we talked a little bit about how this one woman that I follow, and her name's Tiffany Montgomery, and she'll say, she has this phrase of like, worry worships Satan versus faith and love worships God. So we talked a little bit about that. But anyway, we're going to work on the breakthrough strategy of going through a process rather than around it. So breakthrough healing technique, step 1. You are going to, and you may want to put last night the items down that you started working on, the IM, your goal, right? That might be one of the things that you put down, but what am I avoiding, putting off, making excuses for? And in this case, instead of just like 2 things, you're going to just list everything. So you're just taking an audit. So you just kind of have an idea of like, how much have you been putting off? Like, just where are you? In the scheme of things of what you want to do versus what you've been putting off. So we'll do that for 1 minute. Okay, so How did that go for you all? Yes? All right, so you should have some things down. And this is what you're going to do. Next to each item on your list, you're going to note specifically what is holding you back. It may be multiple things, but one of the things is it's kind of like that heart analysis of like back up here. Oh, wait, hold on. Where am I going here? Like, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. You know, like Stephanie, when you were talking about like the things that could be deceitful in other people or even in ourselves, right? And then like those things that are going to like cause, as Trinity was saying, the direction our flow to go in. We want to know what it is. Like we want to, like it's, and it may be multiple things. So next to each item, you're going to write what is your excuse, so that you have to face it. And that will help you know how to proceed. So we'll take 1 minute for that. Okay. So how did that go for everyone? Was it easy, challenging, surprising?
I seem to repeat myself a lot.
So you're
My
noticing
reasons.
patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good. Actually, that's a good thing. Because then you start knowing where exactly it is that you might want to consider paying more attention to. Yeah, you'll know where the problem is, the root of it, when you see those patterns. Cool. Anyone else?
It was a little challenging because I had to sort of reminisce it back to the first day, the previous days of this session. And so it made you think about other stuff that we've done. And so it really lets you really see, you know, where the problem is. You know, it's just really opened me up on that.
Yeah, that's why it's called evicting fear, getting to the root of our problems. So, yes. Okay, awesome. So that's step 2. So step 3, what you're going to do is, and it may be, so this is really totally your choice. If the item on your list, one of the items on your list is also one of what you had worked on. Oh, no, not that one. What you had worked on last night, you can circle that and go further with it. Or if you feel like when you're looking through your list, there's something more pressing or something that you might want to make a higher priority to address, you can do that. But what you're going to do is you're going to circle one item on your list that you will commit to advancing on today. And what we're going to do for the rest of our time together is you're going to work on making a step-by-step plan outline for how you will advance on the item you circled that you've been putting off going through. Because today is your go day. Yay! So of course, I have an example for you. So I did not want to write, so the journal that I recently published, Evict Fear, Getting to the Root of the Problems in Your Problems in 20 Days, and this workshop challenge that we're all enjoying, I'm definitely having fun teaching, I did not want to do. I was actually putting it off because I was like, I don't want to take the time. I don't want to use my energy. So I had written 2 years ago, I wrote a journal on forgiveness. And it took a lot of work and it took a lot of energy. And while I was happy I did it, I didn't want to have to write another book. So I kept running into a little bit of a problem. I felt like God was poking at me to do something around anxiety and fear, because it was kind of kept bothering me that I saw so many other people struggling with anxiety and fear. And I was like, but I know some solutions that I could help them with. I just don't want to have to take the time to write it out. And then I was taking my forgiveness journal to these bookstores out on Long Island to see if they wanted to have them, my forgiveness journal on their shelves. And they were like, yeah, it's all right. But what do you have on anxiety? That's what everyone's coming in here for. I was like, really? Guess that's a real clear sign I need to write this book and do this workshop. So, yeah. So this was in February when I came to the conclusion that I was going to do this. And I gave myself until April to do it. So I've been teaching this for about a year now, but well, actually a little over a year now, because we're in June. So a year and like 2 months. But what I did in February is I broke things down. Like I will say I had an advantage because I'd already written a book before. So I kind of knew what I needed to do. And I was like, I need to like get a piece of paper and just jot down all the verses that come to mind, or that as I'm reading them or hearing them, like come up, right? Make a note of all the things that I want to include. I gave myself the entire month of February. I was like, I will just take the whole month to just kind of gather the information, right? And then I did kind of double over with some of it. Like, I was like, well, I need to, at one point, this was a digital thing and I had it on Teachable. It's no longer available there. It's only in print now, the journal. But I was like, I have to record each session for the 20 days. And so I knocked that out February 26th. I was determined to do that. I also had to read things. I gave myself like a little bit of a week to do that, right? So I was just like doing different things. And I was like, I set a date. I actually, so you can't really see because I made this like really neat for you all. It was a lot messier in real life. But like here, when I said I'm going to do this, I actually had also set my end goal. So what I had done with this, whoops, was, oh gosh, I can't find what I want. Oh, I had done this. This was actually the first thing that I did. I am teaching this by this date. So this was actually my first step. And then I knew what I needed to do. So this was actually teaching the mastermind. I gave myself a date when I was going to do it. So what you're going to do is you are going to do that for whatever the item is that you circled. You're going to write as many things out and give yourself dates for them. So like, for example, I'll just use you, Jesus, if you don't mind, from last night. Is that okay if I use you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So like, say you were sticking today with your goal of writing a book, right? You would have you would have like this here at the end for your date, July of 2025. And then here, like you might have like outline, you know, like you might have the different steps that you're going to take, and you're going to assign a date. Now, if you miss the date by a little bit, it's okay. If you beat the date by a little bit or a lot, that's also okay, right? But you're giving yourself a time frame so you know how you're keeping pace. You know what I'm saying? So this is kind of like your accountability as well. And then you may not know all the things that you need to do, right? And as you go through the process, right? For your book, for example, you might like in 2 months be like, you know what else? I also need to do this, this, and this, and like add things into your plan. But for tonight, you're gonna make out as many steps as you can for what you will need to do in order to achieve and go through the thing that you've been putting off. Did anyone have any questions? Hi, Edith, welcome back. Did anyone have any questions for this or about this? No? Edith, are you, because I know you like had to step away for a little bit, which is fine. It's totally fine. But are you clear on what the breakthrough tool is that we're going to be working on?
Yeah, I think so. My battery died, so I got disconnected.
Oh
I'm
no.
a mess today. I'm so sorry. I'm so disorganized.
It's okay.
But I got it. I think I got it. Thank you.
Yes, yes. We will like change that word a little bit. So instead of saying I am so disorganized, because I will do that sometimes too, I'll say that. But then you're like putting yourself into kind of a state of thinking that you're just disorganized, and that becomes more stressful. So like I'm having an organization challenge is, you know, like a better way without like, you know, like making it totally something that you I mean, you don't want to own the disorganization. All right, so we'll take 10 minutes to work on this. And we'll do, you guys want a little music? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And then of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Please talk and let feedback on anything. Do you prefer this or do you prefer the example?
Can you leave the example up for me? Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course. Sorry about that. You're just fine. Okay. is gone just like that. Time is really flying this evening. How are you all doing?
Really good.
Really good? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, good
I'm
over here too.
looking forward
Yes.
to moving ahead now.
Say that again, Stephanie.
I'm looking forward to moving ahead with things I had planned but haven't executed. And now this is motivating me to execute it now.
Yay. I'm so glad that this is something you're looking forward to. That's so good. Jesus, you said you're doing really good as well?
Yeah, I was able to identify, break it down more, but then I realized it's just making another idea of just I keep breaking it down more to the sub, because just to help me down more is like, oh, what else do I need? So like the first one I wrote, create a main character in the book and break down his motives and goals. But then
Ooh.
I was like, and I kept writing everything down, but then I realized that's just not doesn't it's not bold enough. So I try to break it down even more. So I went back on the top and was like, can like write the story breakdown, and then from there identify the key points and the meaning behind it, and keep breaking it down from there. So I can make it more like easier goals than just like too difficult to. I think if I just write a main character, it felt like too overwhelming. So breaking it down more and more as far as I can will make it seem more achievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you figured that out on your own. And you figured it out really quickly too on your own, that sometimes making something so big, like figure out the main character. Yeah. From an acting perspective, like figuring out a character that someone's going to play takes a whole lot of work. So to develop a character as a writer would probably be double that. Yeah. Yeah. And you gave yourself dates, like you gave goals for your time frame for when you're gonna do those things too, right?
Well, yeah, I did the beginning of this month and the ending. Haven't got to that point yet,
Okay.
but I keep writing, like write 10 pages, revisit it, and then write another 10 pages. But I guess I got to break that down. I haven't put the time set on it yet, but
Yeah.
like
So are you thinking of writing 10 pages a day or 10 pages a week?
a week mostly.
Okay. So, okay. Would it help you to do that per day, or is that too much to be like, I'm going to write a page and a half a day?
So I think like page and a half a day would be more, or 2 pages a day would be more easier to attain than just the goal 10 pages, but like break it down 2 pages a day. That will probably be better for me.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I mean, everyone's different, but whenever I've said I'm gonna do like this and I've given myself a number for the week, I find it ends up getting pushed off
Yeah, yeah.
versus if I'm like, I'm going to do this much every day, it becomes easier to get through. Yeah. So that's just a suggestion. Cool.
No, good idea, good idea.
Yes. Trinity and Edith, how are you two coming along?
Yeah, I feel the same way of just like my big thing right now is getting back to creating content for my page because I've been hiding for a little bit. So just like, okay, actually sitting down and getting a plan together. I was like, okay, I've done that part. And now I'm into like the breaking it down into the more actionable pieces of like what I need to do. So that feels good that I've actually put something to paper instead of it just being up here. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. The really good thing is like when we write it down, it gives our brain more space. Like we're not having to like consciously hold on to being like, I have to remember to do this, this, and this. And when you write it down, then you're like, oh gosh, I don't have to worry about that like anymore. And then your brain is free to create new ideas about like even what this, and this would look like. It definitely, yeah, I love that you wrote it down. It's going to help you be more creative. When you say your page, you mean your Instagram page?
Yeah.
Oh, looking forward to seeing.
Yeah.
And Edith, how are you doing?
I'm I'm doing okay. It has been challenging because one of the things that is important for me to move forward, like in my business, if I'm focusing on my business, right? Because I told you at one point I was like, either I go personal or I go towards the business piece of it. It's like involving other people. It's not just something that I need to do, like it's physical, like, you know, that it's all on me. It's more about bringing people in
Mm-hmm.
because that's what my business do. And it got to be overwhelming because there is so many people that want to be part of it, right? Because now I know so many people and everybody wants to be part of it. And it's hard to pick and choose.
Mm.
But at the same time, it had happened that I will give people opportunity and then they don't follow through.
Uh-oh.
So I think it has been very important for me, this exercise, to kind of really write down what is it that I'm looking for in somebody and really
Yeah.
sit down with each individual and say, this is the expectation. And if you're ready to commit to this at this moment, great. If not, you're always welcome to be part of the project. So I have been avoiding that,
Yeah.
choosing and picking
Yeah.
people, because I feel like most people that I know are really wonderful and really blessed in that sense. People around me are really, really great people.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was given the opportunity, they didn't follow through, and they have big reasons or excuses or reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So relationship is still good.
Okay, good.
But at the same time, I don't want that to to put a stop on my project or hurt my project, right? So I needed to be better. I wrote down the expectations for different roles that people can play in the project.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to actually really sitting down and being really honest and very clear of the expectations. And I started to do that yesterday, because I cannot keep putting it off. And actually have been doing it all myself, right?
Mhm.
So also that part of, yes, I can do it, but that's not the vision for the project because it's a community project.
Yeah.
So I couldn't depend on others. So I'm dependent on myself, but I also puts a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah.
So I think because it has to do with people,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more challenging,
Yeah.
less control at some point. So it's really interesting, I think, for me to
Yeah.
see that.
It's true. There is a lot less control when other people are involved, but that's okay too, because when we try to control things, that's a sign that we are operating in fear because we've stepped out of trust. That it's all going to somehow be fine, even if one person doesn't come through or two people, it's still going to somehow all fall into place. And it always does. I've done so many events and it's always like, oh my gosh, one time I had someone cancel a venue on me like 48 hours before my event. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to find an event in like less than 2 days? But I did. Thank God I had like someone in my network who connected, right? So things like always when other people are involved, yeah, it's kind of a little challenging, but I love that you have chosen to go the route of listing out criteria. Like these are the things that are required from you. And then, they can determine whether they are up for it or not. But like you're actually stepping out of fear and into like trust. It will work out. Yeah. I'm so proud of you all. Yay. I love it. And why, when you're doing the thumbs up, is Zoom not doing the little fireworks behind you? Like
I
it
know, I was
did
trying to get it to
yesterday?
go. I don't
It's
know.
so disappointing. It's not doing it for me either.
Is it
Oh,
gonna
wait,
do-
there it is.
There goes the heart.
Yay. So yeah, so that's that for tonight. We have one more night, which will wrap everything all up together. So I'm super excited about tomorrow night. And tomorrow night is kind of like a little bit of what you were talking about, Edith, because it requires like everyone's participation. So it's not so much individual, it's kind of more of like a community thing. So I'm excited for tomorrow and yay.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. All right.
Thank you, Beth.
So, oh, did I hear something? I thought I heard something. Maybe it was my neighbor. All right. So we'll do a quick prayer to wrap things up. And yes, if that's okay. Okay. All right. So, Father God, I just thank you very much again for everyone who is able to join us. Thank you so much for Stephanie and Jesus and Trinity and Edith. I just thank you so much for their lives. And even though we have our own plans, you do have plans for us as well. So, guide us so that we stay with our plans in alignment with your plans, and that will make everything work so much smoother. So, give us your spirit of wisdom and your spirit of discernment so that we can know the best ways of how to proceed. And also, I ask that you always put us in the right place at the right time, and in front of the right people who you have for us to assist and for who you also have to assist us, because no, none of us is just an island by ourselves, and we all do need each other in some way shape or form. So help us to always be in the right place at the right time so we can meet the right people who are going to help us complete our plans. But they also have plans, so we can help them complete their plans as well. And I thank you so much for that. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Well, that's that.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, you're welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome, Jesus. This was so much fun. I've been having fun with you guys. Yay. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Yes. Thank you.
Night.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.